taking a critical look at the gaming news of the week. This is Augmented Reality.
You are watching my favorite channel.
I've not heard of them.
The Triple S League. Enjoy, guys.
Hello and welcome to the Augmented Reality Podcast for April 20th, 2022. My country forgot that it was April, and there's currently snow on the ground outside again. Freaking heck, what's going on here? But anyway, hope that it's nice weather wherever you are in the world and whatever time of day it is. Thanks for joining us today. We're coming to you pre-recorded on YouTube and on all of our audio podcast platforms, but live on the Discord server as we do every Tuesday night. And we've got our live audience of community members here with us, taking part in the live chat, sending us questions, comments, memes, emotes, terrible things we can't read aloud on the air, all that fun stuff. So if you want to be part of that, hey, join our Discord server. Actually, join our Guilded server. That is going to be the new base of operations as soon as we were actually just talking about it before we started recording a little bit, or just a little bit before we started recording, I should say, about how we're just waiting on like a couple of upgrades from Guilded before we make that our main base of operations. But we do have a solid base over there. I'm not going to rehash it all, but we're moving over to Guilded from Discord because of Discord's new terms of service, which we feel are harmful to life in general. But anyway, we are still doing this live on Discord for the time being, and we've got our live audience here. So yeah, if you want to join, be part of that, join our Discord, but also join the Guilded. And we will do a post-show hangout for all our supporters afterwards in the hangout room. I'm here with Subsidian and Moontag, as always. We also have Max Darrett with us, who is... he does the Maximum News show with Sybe here on Triple S Podcasts. And he's joined us for this show because there was something you wanted... Which topic was it you wanted to talk about? World of Warcraft.
Dragons make everything better.
Dragons, yes. Dragons in World of Warcraft. So we're going to be talking...
Amy Hennig makes every project better.
Well, there you go.
She did Legacy of Kain.
Right on.
Now, before people start freaking out and tuning out, we're not going to be talking a lot about World of Warcraft specifically. And we're not going to talk specifically a lot about the expansion for World of Warcraft because, Ash, what do you know and what do you care about World of Warcraft?
Very little.
And this is currently what pretty much everybody else listening.
Here's the thing. I was not caring about Warcraft before not caring about World of Warcraft. Sorry, I should say World of Warcraft.
You've always
I was indifferent to World of Warcraft before being indifferent to World of Warcraft was cool. That's what I was trying to say.
Because there was a time in my life where I was a top 10 worldwide player. There was a time that I was a top 10 in my specification within the game. I was within the top 10 of the world's charts. The roleplay guild that I was in got put into the top 100 guilds. And again, I know that, basically everybody listening doesn't care. And that's important to know. Why? Because this is the problem with MMOs right now. This is the problem with MMOs. And not just MMOs, but other live service, multiplayer ingrained games. Because if you don't do it right, if there's nothing there attracting the players, grabbing their attention, offering them something that's a unique experience, if there's nothing there, and it's all just been like rehashed and redone and just boring stuff, then it's justifiably so that there's nothing interesting there. And it's not just MMOs. Like I said, it's not just MMOs. So, Square Enix's latest multiplayer, I don't know what they call it. Like it's an arena
Babylon
style.
Something.
Yeah.
Well, Babylon tumbles something.
Falls, yeah. It hit a low a couple of days ago. It hit a low of less than 10 players on Steam.
10, only 10. What?
And it came out like a month and a half ago. Like this is, I mean,
that's sad.
And to repeat a thing that, so Aswin Golden McConnell, I don't know if, again, most people won't care who these guys are. very funny. They were commenting on they're big streamers, like huge. That's why I mentioned them. Asmongold doubled the number of players essentially playing Vampire Survivors. He pulled up the if you pull up the tracking things, it's like he started covering it on such and such a day, and a few days after he started covering it, the population went from like I think it was like 30,000 to like 75-ish thousand players concurrently, like on a daily concurrent basis.
Oh, for sure. Well, when a huge streamer picks up a small game like that.
But again, this is really important to note because Vampire Survivors is made by like one or two guys. I think it might be made by one guy who is essentially doing it in his basement. Like it's one of the surprise hits of the year. But what is it about that game that is? And I've been playing it like crazy. Like people in our community have been playing it.
I'm just going to bring the graphic down here while we're talking about a different game. But Trauma in the chat is asking. He says, I wanted to ask on that game, how is it they managed to get a game out there with no PR?
Well, it's not just that there's no PR. The obvious thing, and again, this ties back to the Babylon's Fall and World of Warcraft, is that why is it that individuals can come up with new concepts and new ways and new games and new game modes and new challenges that bring the players pouring through their door, just like rallying behind them, going, yes, this is what I need, this is what I want. How is it that a single indie developer can do this on a regular basis? I mean, you just like think of all of the small like indie hits that have just had enormous success, from Among Us to Flappy Bird, all these games and hundreds of in between, where again it's like there's big corporations hiring people by the hundreds who can't make a similar game. And the reason why I say similar game is World of Warcraft had this like endless dungeon mode where you're supposed to fight endless dungeons and you get power-ups and stuff like that make it easier to fight things, but then you have more and harder and more difficult things to fight. It's like they had that. It was supposed to be a roguelite. Vampire Survivors is a roguelite, and yet somehow one guy can just nail it, make it so good, and it really is really good. And yet this big corporation can't do anything, and it boils down to the fact that just the industry, the genre has been failing players constantly, and that's why we're not going to talk too much
the
about
industry
the
in general. Yeah, and absolutely. Yeah, I would say that it's fun to play a really good AAA game with the amazing graphics and the huge open world and all of that, if it's a good solid game. But I have to say, looking back over the past few years, the most fun I have had, the most relaxation or the most engagement my brain has had with a game, or just the most fun, has been playing indie games made by a small number of developers or even just one developer. They bring the fun, they bring the gameplay, they're so much more maneuverable than these giant companies that make the big AAA games. We've talked about this 1,000 times, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Just about how the big companies, they won't take risks and they'll just repeat the whole formula again and again and again because they have millions and millions of dollars at stake. Right?
Yeah. But at the same time, that stakeness of them having that at stake, they aren't willing, they're not coming up with anything actually new. And that's hurting themselves too, because they're just they're not, and in a lot of cases they're not even looking to adopt anybody else's ideas properly, like the really good ones. If they do it very shoddily. It's essentially garbage. And that's what World of Warcraft's last two expansions has been. They basically did the exact plot line, or not the exact. They did a very similar plot line to Marvel's Avengers, like Endgame, and it's like, oh no, he's got the 5 sigils. Oh dear.
He's going to dust everybody.
Now he can use them to open a way to the. And it's like, where did this go? It was just so poorly done. And it's interesting today. So in their previous launches, when they launch new products, they up talk their previous thing a lot. They basically didn't even mention the previous expansion.
We should clarify that this was announced. So the announcement or reveal for this World of Warcraft Dragonflight expansion that happened earlier. Well, I guess yesterday, as of when this is going live. But
when it's going live, but for us it was
it was earlier today, Tuesday, and so this just happened today. Yeah. So anyway, continue there, Saib.
So yeah, so so they really didn't talk about their previous expansion because it was an abysmal failure. It was an absolute abysmal failure. I went into it like really hoping to be able to like, show Moon the game because she never played it really, and
It was my first time.
Mm-hmm. And like I was so excited because I'm always excited about MMOs, despite the fact that for the last decade they have always been a heavy disappointment. Every single one of them. Even Lost Ark right now is a disappointment. Why is it a disappointment? Because it just there's nothing to do. I already without spending any money on gearing myself up. I already got to endgame. I already got into this stuff, and there's just nothing to do. And I don't have the classes that I want to play, and it's just like now it's just turned into a job. MMOs are supposed to make you want to waste your time with your friends, not become a second job, and that's what a lot of them become, and that's a big part of the problem with them. There's very little like just sit down and have fun for hours laughing with your friends. There's very few moments where that's a thing, and it's a very strong disappointment. But the other thing that's been a strong disappointment, Max, do you want to give a brief re-highlight to the disappointment that has been Activision Blizzard over the last year and a half-ish?
I mean, like what? Like how much they've been messing everything up?
Yeah. Like,
well, I mean, okay, well, there are people like the men inside their establishment were finding every possible conceivable way to harass the women, even like ridiculously creative. I don't even want to go into it at the risk of demonetizing what's been going on here. Plus, that culture just seems to have been affecting their capability of putting out quality content. I think the last quality game that they really put out was Overwatch, and then they announced Diablo Immortal, which nobody wanted. Then all the Warcraft 3 Reforged debacle, Diablo 2 comes out not properly done, and then everything gets pushed off into the future, and then it's there's so much to it. It's been a mess.
Bobby Kotick threatened to kill his secretary.
Oh yeah.
Allegedly.
And that came out it was like 1 or 2 weeks after he said there's a zero tolerance policy for anybody threatening or abusing women in our institution. But that because it was before he wasn't no longer held to that same standard, and it's just been a gong show. And again, we I still know good people that work at Blizzard who have been dealing with depression, that have been dealing with frustration. I mean, the countless number of women there that have been rudely treated, and it a lot of it just boils down to terrible things. So have they learned their lesson? Have they is there a sign of hope here with this expansion? And I would say yes, because first things first, they didn't talk about last expansion at all. Second thing, they started with basically again that corporate apology of we're sorry, but not actually saying those words because that would get them in legal hot water. But they basically came out and said, we really discovered that we needed to listen to our fan base because again, they're losing so many subs. So many people that used to play the game on a daily or weekly basis have just moved on, and in the hundreds of thousands, and that really started to hurt their bottom line. And there was a whole list of things that people wanted, and I mentioned Asmongold and McConnell because so first they had mentioned they were the ones who like got really upset and were like, how is this thing in Warcraft, which is supposed to be what Vampire Survivors is, how is it not even close to this good? Like how, like where did they drop the line that they're just so incompetent that they can't make something good that they're supposed to literally make good and somebody else can? They had been asking, Asmongold especially had been asking for a mount that you get that's kind of like your pet mount, and that you progress it over time. Ash, you played Witcher 3, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Of course I did.
Do you remember when you killed the griffin and
Yeah.
you were then able to carry the griffin's head on the side of your mount?
Oh yeah,
on your horse. Yeah,
that was an
pretty
awesome
cool,
moment.
right?
Although in my playthrough, it was what's his name who got the killing blow, because I was kind of annoyed by that. But I felt like I was playing mine. It felt like I was playing World of Warcraft and oh shoot, what's his name? The other Witcher. Max, help me out here.
The other Witcher?
The guy, the older Witcher who's like at the beginning with Geralt.
Oh, dude, I've never played more than a few hours of The Witcher 3. Sorry.
Okay.
Don't kill me.
Vesemir, that's okay. Vesemir got the killing blow on the Griffin for me, so it felt like I was playing a multiplayer game, and then they totally stole my kill. But anyway, none of that has anything to do with what you asked me. Yes, I remember that, and that was awesome.
Okay, so yeah, you and just remind me, when did that game come out again?
2015?
Witcher 3?
Or was it earlier than that?
Yeah, 2015.
It was 2015. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So Asmongold asks for a mount that you can customize, because you can't customize any mounts in the game. They recently introduced mounts that were like had the same mesh and the same model, but you could give it different skin colors. Not a lot, and you couldn't really do anything with it. It was just like, do you want the pink one, the blue one, the gray one, the red one,
so
or
it has the same amount of customization
one?
as Among Us. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So they had that, and
except Among Us had hats.
Yeah, right. So, but one of the things they've added here is the ability to get one of 4 mounts that you can then continually customize. And it's like, wow, that's amazing. Also, like, what, 7 years behind the times of when this is? I mean, and that's just that's just horses, right? In another RPG, you could customize your cars like how many decades ago in video games, and at no point did they think in the last almost 20 years of Warcraft did they think, hey, you know what would be a good idea? Customizable mounts.
Well, yeah.
Like, how is this just? How have you just not like how is this coming out now? But the important thing is that it is coming out now. So that's
a step in the positive direction. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so things like this are showcasing that when the community does put enough pressure on a company, they can exert change. And this is the highlight that I really wanted to focus on tonight with this, because again, very few people. I barely care about this. I barely care. I hope that I could get into the alpha or the beta and be encouraged to care a little bit more. But to be honest, I've been burnt once before, and it continues to happen, and again, it's very sad, because it's one of the types of games that I excel at, like really good, and it just sucks that like I can't get enjoyment out of it anymore. Like, I can't get enjoyment out of it right now because there's still, like, the whole thing with all of the lawsuits and stuff still going on. There's still not a satisfactory end to that. There's still a lot of problems that need to be rectified there. And then at the same time, it's like they aren't really listening, because they're not listening to the people that the actual like core complaints. It's like, you don't respect people. And it's like, all right. We've learned our lesson. We're now going to start respecting another group of people and looking at a different group of people and telling them to blank off. It's like, no, That's not how you fix the problem. It's just, I mean, it's not how you fix the problem. Treat everybody with respect. How hard is that to do? I mean, like, you guys, like, thoughts.
Screw you, Sad. No, I'm kidding. I'm just joking. Like, that was
I kind
joke.
of figured that would, yeah.
Okay.
You know, right? Because it's like how hard is it to do? Just treat people with respect. Just treat people with dignity. Don't make people work for poverty level wages when you make, you know, over $1 billion a year. You make over $1 billion a year. At least let these people not starve to death during the day. I mean, it's really freaking simple.
It's like you could invest in your employees, and maybe that would give them a reason to invest themselves in working hard or better for you. Like, what a concept.
I can't believe the gall that these people had. Just they thought that because they were Activision and Blizzard and that they had these legendary franchises behind them, that they could get away with paying and treating their employees with these poverty wages for that long without any sort of backlash. Like, I imagine, like, yeah, you could probably get, like, they did get away with it for a couple of years, but then, like, all their karma just sort of came back to bite them in the ass, and now they're really paying for it. But yeah, hopefully that's a lesson to the rest of the gaming industry that they're on notice, and hopefully the next people that will happen to will be Ubisoft, who seems to be like, they have their own great share of problems, but they're not really getting the same type of backlash that Activision and Blizzard got, you know.
And they really should, but nobody's suing them yet,
Oh, yeah.
so, or at least not that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
Anyway, I mean, very well said. It's a disgusting situation, and it's, I mean, it's one of these kind of ethical conundrums, because I kind of want to support the employees who are working there, and just, you know, who went into it believing that they were going to be doing what they enjoy doing and just want to make a good product and want to create stuff. It's not their fault that the management is so crap.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not their fault that they're being paid peanuts, but yeah, like the company, I mean, I don't know. I'm still on the fence about whether or not there's really any saving Blizzard. It may just burn to the ground and something like, you know, like a forest fire.
Overwatch 2
Maybe
and
new
Diablo
life
4
will
be in
grow out
ruins.
of the ashes in the end, but it's I don't know. I mean, yes, it would be great for them to turn everything around, but it almost feels at this point like the name of Blizzard and Activision is just going to be tainted by this for a long time. Maybe in 10 years we'll look back.
It's going to take time for it to recover. And Trauma in the chat says, feels like most of the large corporate gamings have become oblivious to the audience, and their strategy is just to make the next big buck. And yeah, I totally agree with that, because it's like, the bigger the company gets, like, you can look at it like they're building a tower, and now that they've built their tower so big, when they look out the windows, they're like, oh, look at all those fans and all those tiny people, they look like ants. You know, we are just the greatest being so high up here. We could do anything we want. And boy, did they fall. So
Yeah, well, I heard a rumor, and this is a nasty rumor. This is really like this goes to show how arrogant some of these people were there. And again, this is a rumor. The rumor is that in the early stages of the alpha testing and beta testing for Shadowlands, the previous expansion, Asmongold did a lot of like runs in the Torghast, which is this infinite, you know, roguelike type dungeon where you just get amazing powers and it completely changes your build. You get completely different things. And before they had to go all the way up to like 100, and you just power through 100 floors at a time. And he was really excited about this feature. People really seemed to dig it. There were a lot of people tuning in to him testing this on a daily basis. And yeah, there was a general sense of like, this is so cool. The rumor is that there were certain people amongst the dev studio that just hated him so much that they decided to remove that part of the game and limit it to a total of like, I don't even remember now. I think it was like 16 floors or 8 floors or something like that. 16 or 8. It's been a while. It's like you ruined a portion of your game to spite a guy who streams your game.
So, and this is like, there's potential legitimacy to this rumor. I mean, that's quite a.
It's one of those rumors that, again, you're like, why would anybody be this stupid?
Well, you have to wonder, which makes me like think, well, could that possibly be true? Why would they be that stupid?
Well,
but after the past couple of years in this industry,
there are people there were devs who like openly on Twitter would just call him names. Like the biggest streamer for your game that brought the most people into the most new people into replaying the game and getting into classic and doing all this other stuff, and they would just throw insults at him.
It's so dumb. I mean, if you don't like the guy, don't watch his stream. But he's out there giving you free advertising for your product constantly.
But he's also again, anybody who like knows anything about him is like, the guy's clearly like autistic to some degree, and he's a very brilliant autistic person, because he can remember things from like months and months and months ago. Like he goes through like chats and he can recall people, and he'll immediately bring up their chat log and be like, I remember you said this 3 months ago. And it's like, the guy has hundreds of thousands of people sending him messages, and he will just remember
too fast. I can't follow it at all.
And he'll just glance over to the side. He'll direct somebody at point them out and either say a good thing or a bad thing about them. And the other thing that he does is he can remember like what raid he was in 4 or 5 months ago or a year ago, and who his team members were in that raid. And then he will go, yeah, you insulted this guy. He did this the other day. And I'm just sitting there going, wow, that's amazing. And yes, he's clearly is a certain level of autism. And again, it's like, there are people who just don't care about that. They just want to chop him down. They could care less about that. So yeah, I'm a little bit more defensive of him because we're in the same boat a little bit. He doesn't like being called labels, and yeah, I get it. I know lots of autistic people and even in the support group that I go to from time to time, where they don't like the label because the label they want to be normalized. They don't want to have the labels thrown at them all the time. And Max, do you know anybody who's like that?
People who
just they don't like the label of being autistic.
Sure. I mean, like, nobody likes being pigeonholed, right? Like, they don't, because oftentimes when you are autistic, people will just take that and try to make you out to just be that. Right.
That is that's the issue with labels, right? Yeah, like.
Right. Yeah, I can't name any like famous person off the top of my head, but I could tell you somebody who's dealt with a lot of people who have, well, not dealt with, but met people that have autism. They don't like talking about it just because they don't like that possibility. Right.
Yeah. And like I said, no need to name names, but like, yes, we've all been like, you and I both, we know people who are clearly on the spectrum and who don't like the concept that they tend to steer clear of it. And again, that's, that's their thing. But anyway, at any rate, so disappointed for the most part in Blizzard still as a company. But as far as the product for WoW, it does appear to be getting better. Moon, you saw the new race, right? Moon and Max, you guys.
Dragons?
What's your the dragon race? Which you guys get a good look at that. What's your opinions of that?
The Drakthir is a new race. It's on the screen right now for those watching on YouTube. And do you guys have any opinion?
But like I said, dragon, like at the very beginning of this, like dragons just make everything better.
There was actually quite a discussion in the live chat about that and whether or not dragons actually make everything better and how cool cybernetic dragons are. So yeah, that's the kind of fun that you're missing out on if you're not in our community servers, listeners. So definitely Find the links below to join our Discord and our Guilded.
So hold on a second. If you're a dragon, do you really need like a mount then? Because you have wings, you could just fly everywhere.
That is a very good question.
Yeah.
Huh.
And yeah, apparently you still need a mount.
Well, they're.
I don't get it.
Looks like there's two versions, or are they? Can they like transform? Like there's.
Yeah, well, they transform like so. It's the same thing for werewolves in the game.
Okay.
When they go into combat, they immediately turn into their their more combat orientated version of themselves, and then when they're out of combat, they can choose to. It's a toggle to either be in your form all the time or to revert to a more human-y form. And I mean that's been in lore for a long time, for a really long time, for not just in World of Warcraft. I mean in general.
Yeah.
In D&D, dragons can take human form all the time.
Okay.
And that I believe that goes back to some Middle Age stories as well. It's like dragons can turn into people and can do things, or people can turn into dragons, vice versa. And those things have different reasons and effects for that. So that's a pretty common thing.
I would love to be a were-dragon. That'd be so cool. But I'd have to be able to control the transformation. Otherwise, my house would be destroyed. Anyway, so they're a neutral race. So you can support either the Horde or the Alliance. And
that's something else that they're moving away from is the two opposing sides, because it's gotten kind of ridiculous to this point now. There's a funny meme that they made with a Warcraft animation where it's like there's a human and an orc, and they're just constantly passing, like they go from fighting each other to giving each other weapons to fighting so that they can fight something else, to like the human will pass a weapon to the orc will pass a weapon to the human, and it just goes back and forth and back and forth. It's just them manipulating the footage. And it's very funny because that's an accurate representation of the stupidity that has been the faction system now for the last like many expansions. It's gotten to the point where it's just forced. It's like you don't need to be constantly at war with somebody because they're in a different faction or government than you are. You know, we get along pretty well with those Americans down south there. You know, we Canadians love those Americans, and those Americans love those Canadians. It's really quite a peaceful system that we have. And just because you say, you know, and this is the other thing that they brought up today, is just because you say for the Alliance or for the Horde doesn't mean, you know, screw the other guys. It just means that you're taking pride in who you are. And I'm like, yeah, you know, comments I shouldn't make. But yeah, that's funny, and it's about time that they figured this out. It's only, again, it's late in coming by probably about a decade. So congratulations for figuring out that, you know, two different countries don't have to be at war constantly. Shocking, I know.
Mm-hmm. I have questions, but we've already dragged this out for too long, so we'll keep moving along. New class, the Evoker.
Let us know in the comments what your thoughts are on this. I'd be curious to know. I know that, again, most people just kind of they kind of dislike this. There is the announcement as well that that Classic Wrath is coming.
So wait, it says here in this this article is from Windows Central that the beta test will begin soon, and
soon TM, probably
soon TM.
like
but then it's saying here that the general average time span between the announcement of an expansion and the release of the expansion is around a year. Are we looking at this is a year away?
Oh yeah, yeah. This is not only like
this
brutal. Is probably more than a year away.
That is brutal for people who want to see new life in World of Warcraft. And who like those who are hanging on, unlike you, who were a diehard, and I now don't care at all about it. You know, but you know, so those who are still hanging on, and now they have to wait a year before they get the cool stuff. Like, that sucks. That sucks for them. One final thought that I have on this is this is kind of, I guess, a metaphor for Blizzard right now, but why isn't there any color in this stinking logo? I just posted it in the podcast live chat because the live folks can't see my screen right now.
Bland.
It's just gray with like this tiny hint of color, and it looks like the life is being sucked out of it. You look at previous logos, World of Warcraft, they're colorful, they're bright. It's like, come on. Whose idea was like, let's make this thing look like it's made of gray stone? That'll bring people in. Channeling my inner Gaffigan. That'll bring people in. Let's make it look like it was carved out of soap. Fantastic.
Somebody forgot to turn on the color filter.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very so their place where they came from is very stone-like. So it's
I get that it's thematic, but it's just not. It doesn't grab me at all.
It doesn't pop.
Yeah. But anyway, all right. Well, let's move on. Unless Max, did you have any final thoughts on this?
Can I make my mount pink?
I believe there is a color options within the mounts. I think they'll be somewhat limited, but I do seem to think that it's probably going to be in there because the coloring, or you'll be able to get a couple of different versions of them. So there is kind of a gray and pinkish one, and then there's a gray or blackish like skin tone one. I guess you could like.
Okay. I'm telling you right now,
Yeah.
if I can get the option to get a griffin and make it pink, I might just have to get back into World of Warcraft.
Yeah, I mean, and again, this is like this. Hopefully, this is boding well for future changes and future concepts and stuff like that. So, cross your fingers and hope they can learn. Because again, it's not so much like I have very little trust in Activision Blizzard, and I wouldn't have tuned in at all if the whole Microsoft merger wasn't a thing.
Right.
I honestly think that if they hadn't been bought out, if there isn't this clear like sort of Damocles hanging over a lot of these leaders there, I don't think they would have changed to the degree that they have, because they know that they have to impress their new bosses to be in order to retain their jobs when this merger happens in about a year or less. Now it's a lot less than a year now, I think. So yeah, they know that their arses are on the line now, and
Right.
and again, congratulate. Like again, it should have been, of course. You failed the player bases for so long. You've treated the community with abuse. One of the things that they said, which is a very accurate thing, one of the big things that they said today was that they want to return player agency to the players. That's a confession that they removed player agency a long time ago. And that's been a constant complaint. And it's there not only from a gameplay perspective, but also from an RPG story perspective, as well as a very sexist story writing perspective. Every single prominent woman in the game has gotten super emotional and then caused a bunch of problems. That is summing up the last like the major story arcs with all the females for the last decade. It's disgusting.
Huh.
It really is disgusting, and again, I wouldn't be talking about this if the Microsoft buyout had happened, because again, I really doubt that these people would have gotten over themselves to the point where they're like, oh, I guess I need to secure my job for the future. So that's my opinion.
Well, it's disappointing that's what it took to get to that point.
Yeah. Well, and I think that really is the point at which they're at now.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Well, quick mid-roll here. You are listening to Augmented Reality. This is a presentation of the Triple S League right here on Triple S Podcasts or on the podcast platform you're listening to us on. Definitely like and subscribe. Find all the links below to all of the things, and also you can hear Maximum News right here on this YouTube channel with our host Max Darrett hosts that one, who is sort of guest spotting with us on today's show, and Saib does that show as well. All right, so let's transition away from talking about franchises that have disappointed us, and let's start talking about Star Wars. Oh wait, damn. Well.
Same thing.
Anyway,
Yeah.
but Amy Hennig, formerly of Visceral, which no longer exists, formerly before that of Naughty Dog, who was instrumental in the Uncharted series.
Writing that.
Yeah, so she has now been given another shot at making a Star Wars game. It's just been announced. At Visceral, she was working on a Star Wars game, codenamed Ragtag, and that just unceremoniously got shut down to the disappointment of pretty much everybody. But that's what happens when you work for an EA company. Now she is with, what's the name of the studio? Skydance something or other. Skydance New Media, which is a division of Skydance that was started. So this is a company she started. Okay. Are they owned by a bigger company? I don't remember. I remember reporting on it when she started this company. Yeah, thanks, Max. But so anyway, partnering with Lucasfilm to make another Star Wars game, a narrative-focused single-player action-adventure game. Nope, that's the Visceral one. Hold on. What's the one that they're making now is an action-adventure game that will feature an original story. So it sounds like it's kind of the same thing. I don't know if it'll share any of the elements that the previous game had, but she gets another shot at making a Star Wars game. Your thoughts, lady and gentlemen?
It's about time. I mean, it really is.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's anything this woman touches when it comes to a major franchise seems to turn into literal gold. Legacy of Kain, she did all there's 5 major games in that series. She did all of them except for Blood Omen 2, which is fine because Blood Omen is sort of outside of the continuity of that series, but it's some of the most compelling Shakespearean level type writing that you don't really get in most games. And then with Uncharted, even though I'm not really the biggest fan of the Uncharted games, I will say that she has this talent of being able to make, how do I say this? You're along for the ride and you're happy to be for the majority of the time. And even though I wasn't huge on them, she obviously, Uncharted is a legendary franchise and she's a large part of the reason why people love those games so much. And then when Visceral, that whole game was in development before the huge Disney takeover. What was it? It was supposed to be like Uncharted meets Star Wars, right? That's like Ragtag and Uncharted. Those titles are synonymous with each other, so I think it's safe to assume that that's what was going to happen. And then that was taken away from us, just like Star Wars 1313. Great idea, taken away from us. Hopefully, now that it seems like Lucasfilm are sort of coming to their senses in regards to what it is exactly they want to do with the Star Wars properties, they're giving it to not necessarily to the biggest gaming companies like EA, which they did, and you saw how that turned out. No, they're giving it to Quantic Dreams, and they're giving it to her. And they're also letting Respawn continue on with making their games. So in that regard, it makes Star Wars seem to be going back from where it was just a couple years ago with the Rise of Skywalker and that huge debacle. And now it's back on an upward trajectory with these games, with The Mandalorian, with Obi-Wan coming out next month. Now it's just a matter of trying to figure out what it is exactly this game's going to be about. Is it going to be returned to that same idea, or is it going to be a completely brand new thing? Right? That's what I'm wondering.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, we don't know many details about this, but it's good to have a seasoned and respected developer back at the head of a Star Wars game, and apparently. Oh, okay. So the Skydance is also working on a new game set in the Marvel universe. So there's that. But anyway, it's good to have Star Wars back in the hands of game developers that are what do I want to say here? Not absolute shit. It might be the word to use. EA studios that, like, EA just was a disaster when they owned exclusive rights to make Star Wars games. Now that they don't, we're getting some good games. Well, I should say, well, none of them are out yet, so I guess that's a little premature to say. But recently, we have gotten some good Star Wars games. Like the Jedi Fallen Order was really good. Respawn's doing a sequel to that, but that was, Respawn really broke away from the the EA mold, if you will, and so they used Unreal instead of Frostbite, and
thank God,
and just made a really solid Star Wars experience. It was a very safe Star Wars experience in the sense that it was, it didn't take any major risks with the gameplay or it was a little formulaic, but it was really solid. It was really good. It was fun to play. And so I'm glad they've got a shot at making a sequel. And then the spaceship Squadrons? Yeah, it was called Squadrons. That was pretty good too. Now I can't remember which studio did that. Gameplay-wise, it was good. Characters and story and cinematics were crap, but it was fun to play. It was fun to play. Anyway, so
Motive Studios.
Motive. Were they owned by EA?
I think they operate under EA.
Okay,
yeah.
so we haven't had any non-EA Star Wars games recently, but I don't know. I've got hope, I guess.
And the best thing about all this going forward is it seems like story is going to be a larger focus. And that's the thing about Star Wars as a property. It's literally like a bunch of galaxies wide, the world of Star Wars. Yet in the recent past, it seems like whether it's the movies, the TV shows, or the games, they're only really concerned with sort of the main planets like Tatooine, Endor, Hoth, in depicting those. Coruscant. Although, wait, is that a planet? I can't. Never mind. The point is, expanding beyond that, going to other planets, going to other galaxies, meeting other races. That's the sort of thing that Star Wars really needs right now. And I think that video games are a wonderful way to sort of just let great people with great minds, people like Amy Hennig, people like what's his name over at Quantic Dreams. Although I have some reservations about his projects, but he does have. Let's say he is creative. I think that we'll definitely be getting a lot more of that, and thank God, it'll spell great things for the Star Wars franchise moving forward.
All right, and I think. Did you have any thoughts about that, Moon or Saib?
I want an alien that looks like Kane. Sorry.
I'm hoping for something that's like open world, role play, RPG-ish. Like the best Star Wars game is Jedi Knight Academies, because you got to build just whatever you wanted, and the lightsaber combat was so good. It was so good. Mm-hmm. Oh man, we should still do a show. I don't know. We should still do a video where we go back and play that. It was so good. It was so good. The controls are terrible now, but oh my goodness, the game was so good in its time.
Honestly, I would love to do
criminally underrated.
I would love to do a Let's Play series of like those classic old games, but unfortunately, that doesn't get the views and.
No, it really does. People are not typically interested in that.
But there's some great old games that are just maybe I don't know. Might have to approach it a different way than just a straight up Let's Play. I mean, Let's Plays. It's hard to be a Let's Player. Let's put it that way. You've got to add something new to your content. That's what I'm discovering, and that's what we're trying to do. Yeah, straight up gameplay videos just don't do very well. But anyway, yeah. So. New Star Wars game I would be happy for, and yeah, give us good combat in it. Like I'd say, yeah. So 2 ingredients for a great Star Wars game: story, like Max said, you absolutely have to have great story, and you also have to have good combat, good movement. It can't just be bland, boring crap. Also has to have the heart of Star Wars. Like, it has to feel like Star Wars. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Moon, I know you're not like the hugest Star Wars fan, so maybe you don't have much to add to this, but
Well, as long as it's got good writing, good characters, good like user interaction with like combat and story, whatnot, I'm cool.
Yeah.
So like I'm excited to see what she puts out considering her track record. So yay.
okay. Those are really the big stories of the week, and they've taken up most of our time here. I mean, I have a couple other tabs to pull up that we could talk about. I'm not sure if that would really make for an interesting end to the show. But we did have a special request from someone on Gilded. Orwell Oracle sent us a link to the Webby Awards, where the game Dark is currently up for an award for independent creator. Now, Dark came out a few years ago, so I don't know if this is I guess it looks like the complete edition comes pretty soon, or it's coming to PS5. Anyway, maybe some new version of it. I'm not sure, but anyway, it's up for a Webby Award for best game from an independent creator. Looks like, and I don't want to tell you how to vote in this, but you can check out the Webby Awards. They have each category has 2 winners, so this is slightly better than the Game Awards. Their panel of judges picks one winner, and then there's a public vote to determine the People's Voice Choice Award winner. So, anyway, if you're interested in that, you can visit webbyawards.com. And like I said, Dark is there. Oh, and Dark is notable in that it gained some fame when it first came out because they were offered Epic exclusivity, and turned it down. The developer turned down a big chunk of money that would have been offered to him to put the game exclusively on the Epic Games Store, which is what Epic was doing at the time and probably still is doing. It's just, I think we've all gotten tired of talking about it. But standing on principle and the fact that they had promised their supporters, like they had a Kickstarter or something like Kickstarter. Anyway, they had promised their backers and supporters a Steam release and for sure a Steam release. I don't know if he had promised it for consoles or what, but on principle, the developer turned down this offer of Epic exclusivity, and as a result, you had a lot of people buying the game who weren't even interested in it and had no plans to play it, but they just wanted to support a developer that was showing some integrity. So it was a very, very interesting story, and we do actually have a review on our channel of the game that was done by our associate, Jamie Catalyst. So, anyway, yeah, the Webby Awards. It's not just Game Awards. They do the best of the internet. They give awards for best website and best podcast and all kinds of stuff.
They can't be that great. They haven't contacted me. Come on.
Who's the biggest narcissist on YouTube? Maybe.
I'm looking at you, guy. No, I'm kidding.
All right.
For the record, I just do that to be colorful. It's not because I'm an actual narcissist.
I know that. It's the bit. It's the bit. Okay. I'm going to bring up some... these are just some entertaining headlines that have been sent to us on Gilded and Discord. Yes, you can suggest topics for us to talk about either in videos on the podcast on both of those platforms. We have a content requests room on both servers. So this is just one of the weirdest things I've ever read. The new Need for Speed will reportedly combine photorealism with anime elements. Right. Because nothing screams photorealism like anime. Nothing screams anime like photorealism. According to VentureBeat's Jeff Grubb, on his podcast, he He claims the new Need for Speed will be photorealistic, but it's going to have, on top of that, some anime elements. You know, when you see a car commercial or something like that, and the car's driving around, but then cartoon flames and stuff are flying off it, that's the kind of aesthetic that they seem to be going for. I'm having trouble picturing that, but okay.
Like an anime version of Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Roger Rabbit?
I don't know if he means like it's going to be like actually cartoon looking flames, or if it's like when they like the Fast and Furious series, where just this super unrealistic stuff happens, the kind of thing you'd see in anime, but they make it look real. I don't know.
You talk about you could totally drive from one building into the other.
Yeah,
that's totally realistic.
Totally right. Totally right. Although you know the one, okay, and I only know this because I just, when I was sick with COVID, I watched all of the Fast and Furious movies because I was bored out of my mind, and I actually like them, even though they're so stupid in so many ways. But
sure.
Yeah, when they parachuted the cars in that one movie, they actually did that. Like, it wasn't all effects. Crazy. Yeah. So, the other news about the Need for Speed is that this also from Jeff Grubb, that apparently Need for Speed will forego a console release on PS4 and Xbox One, and will be targeting PlayStation 5 and the Series X/S, and it'll be arriving this November. So they're skipping a console generation.
I gotta ask, when was the last time you guys played a Need for Speed game? I think the last one I ever played was Most Wanted. No, Carbon, which came out after Most Wanted.
When was the last time a Need for Speed game came out?
Right, yeah. Like, Need for Speed used to be pretty damn legit.
It's still out pretty commonly. I mean, they do like updates every, I think it's like other year.
Right, but it used to be huge. Like, people have such nostalgia for more so Underground 2. That game had like one of the best soundtracks ever.
Well, Ash and I go way back. Ash, what was our primo racing game back in the day?
Oh,
it was called
that one. Pod. Yeah, I was gonna say I don't remember the name
of
it.
Pod, not to be confused with POD. But yeah, Pod was one of the best racing games. Still in my mind, it's still one of the best racing games because you went on the roof, you went on the walls, you flew through gigantic Earth-sized engines regularly. Well, not Earth-sized, but like really big engines. And yeah, that was my go-to. I know I did play a lot of Need for Speed, but it was a really long time ago.
Yeah, me too. I'm just looking at the list of their games, though. They had Payback that came out in 2017, and Heat came out in 2019, so it wasn't that long ago.
High Octane was another one, futuristic racer that I really loved. You had rockets and a machine gun, so, I mean, hey, what's not to like about that?
No, okay, so I'm confused. This says that Need for Speed Heat came out on the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, so they didn't... I guess it just means that their next installment won't be on the previous console generation. So they didn't skip a generation. They're just not targeting it with their next one, which I mean kind of makes sense. The PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series XS they're really pushing things forward with those, and they've been out for so long now. I'm not surprised that games are starting to ignore previous generations. I mean, it's a bummer for the people who have the previous generation console, granted. But unfortunately, I mean, that's kind of it's kind of what you have to deal with if you're gaming on console, right? It's kind of unavoidable. Eventually, it's obsolete. I mean, the same could be said about PCs, but. So you know that little game that kind of it was maybe a little flash in the pan, but it got some popularity. What was it called? The old circlet? No, the ancient.
The ring
ancient
of the Elden
oval.
variety?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The Elden Ring. Elden Ring.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So very, very popular to the point where people who know nothing about video games and don't deal with video games and aren't gamers are feeling the need to write about it in the news, and it is so cringeworthy that I just had to pull these articles up, and these were sent by a couple of our users again on Guilded and Discord. This one, actually, I'll read this one first. The New York Times published this article called "In Elden Ring, the struggle feels real," and it's this whole long spiel about how the basically how the game is kind of a metaphor for the pandemic we've all been living through, and I don't know what their point is, actually. I don't know what the point of this article is, but they do say some massively intelligent things like, it's difficult to imagine Elden Ring having this sort of cultural cachet in any other era. Right. Because none of these not roguelike. What am I saying here? Soulsborne-like games. None of them gained any cultural significance in any other era. I mean,
yeah, it's not like we haven't heard like people clamoring for a 60 FPS patch to Bloodborne for like the last million years.
So they go on and on about how hard this is.
Agree with them, by the way. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. But by the time, so they talk about how, like, for some where was that? I used to have a thing where I could just highlight paragraphs to read later, and oh yeah, here it is. As some of us let our guard down to have some semblance of normal life, we are bracing ourselves for that stupid bird around the corner that still might kill us. Our hard-learned lesson of the pandemic, to expect disappointment and more struggle, has trained us well for the Elden Ring. What are you trying to say here? Like,
he's trying to sound profound by linking the difficulty of the game with the difficulty of going through the pandemic.
That, yeah, I get that much, but is this just
totally
basically, it's like,
because getting through Elden Ring, especially with those goddamn birds, is a lot harder than getting through the pit. No, I'm being facetious. Sorry, but
I mean, the most credit I can give this is that they've identified that one difficult thing is similar in some ways to another difficult thing, but then make silly points like, this is why it's so popular. Well, yeah, right. Okay. Anyway.
In other words, New York Times publishes trash article that just proves how out of touch they are with everything else going on in the world.
Yeah, in other words, they instructed some poor writer to write an article and include the Elden Ring in it because that would get them clicks. Yep. But this poor writer just didn't know what to do with that. This one's even better. Elden Ring has outlasted its critics, and so will Bitcoin. That is the headline from this article from Coindesk.com, which I guess is a website about cryptocurrency or something related to that. From Software never bowed to misguided attacks on its Souls games. That purity of vision has made them legends. And then this writer goes on to write a whole article about how this is the same as this is also why Bitcoin will succeed. This is my favorite part right here that I'm going to read. Yes, welcome to the most cringy of all op-eds. This is quote, word for word from the article. Okay, this is the writer being painfully self-aware. Yes, welcome to the most cringy of all op-eds, a labored comparison between the infinite complexity of reality and a piece of pop culture. In this case, between cryptocurrency and the Elden Ring. I'm ashamed to find myself mining such hoary tropes, but the parallels between crypto and the Souls games are hard to turn away from. The two epic projects even launched almost simultaneously, with Bitcoin's genesis block mined in January of 2009, and the first Souls game, Demon Souls, released in Japan in February of 2009. My main points, though, have to do with creativity, purity of vision, accessibility, and community. So, even the...
I'm taking a wild guess. Just a really wild, insane guess.
Uh-oh.
And assuming that they're going to be assaulting two of those points with the same brush. Oh, do you not know?
Sorry, no, I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not catching what you're going for here. Sorry.
I was wondering if you followed up with their points on those things.
Oh no, I wasn't going to go that deep into it.
Oh,
I just
okay.
wanted to point out that this is a hilarious concept for an article. Basically, just this. It seems to be a trope now of them, of people trying to relate Elden Ring to things that have nothing to do with Elden Ring or video games, period. And it's just these forced comparisons. They're trying to wedge it in there. Because Elden Ring is so stinking popular, they just want to have those search terms on their news sites, I think, is what's happening.
Yes,
and the results are hilarious.
The abusive relationship between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard is very timely for the abusive relationship that some player characters are having with Ronnie the Witch in Elden Ring. Do I stay with her? Do I go? Do I let her take over the world? And like, I mean, if that's the degree of like comparative article that we're going for, I could write for the New York Times, guys.
Oh, I'd much rather read that article written by you. Yeah. So that's it again. I guess if we want to connect this to a broader, slightly more important point, it's the state of modern journalism. I mean, yeah, in one sense, I mean, these are opinion pieces, obviously, but still, media is just they're just scraping the bottom of the barrel constantly for content. It's like, give me a reason to think crypto is good, like relating it to the fact that Elden Ring has succeeded. Like, there's very little correlation between a video game and cryptocurrency. I buy a video game, I play it, it's a recreation. If I'm going to invest...
That's not why they put that there.
Mm-hmm.
They put that there so that people would click on it going, yeah, man, yeah, Elden Ring's awesome. Oh, hey, look, bro, the site's telling me to buy this, like, new, like, cryptocurrency that it's offering, too. They're like, there's this article here saying that it's going to be the next, like, Dogecoin. Yeah, this is awesome. Let me put like 10 grand down on that.
Next Dogecoin.
The amount of crypto scams it is getting ludicrous. Do you know a guy bought an NFT of the very first tweet put out by Jack on Twitter for $5 million, expecting to sell it at auction for $50 million, and he only got a 10 grand offer.
I didn't hear about that one specifically, but
it's so crazy because clearly by owning the first tweet, he now in a way owns all of Twitter. I mean, when you think about it, right? Like when you think about it, he owns a picture of the first tweet made by Jack. Therefore, vis-a-vis, obviously, for those scientifically enlightened, he now owns the majority of Twitter because, you know, he owns the first tweet.
So,
a picture of the first tweet.
Elon Musk should be hitting him up.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't give. He got no approval from Jack to do that, but still, he owns it, right? Like, on his network, he owns it. Okay. I can pull up that tweet and then, you know, take a picture of it.
You could take take your own screenshot of it.
My God, it's getting ridiculous.
It is pretty silly. I did read about a situation similar to that where a guy spent millions of dollars expecting to double his investment on an NFT, and got offered like just a tiny fraction of what he paid for it. These things have no intrinsic value, people.
Why are people doing this?
There's no intrinsic value. It's all attributed value. So, I'm sure that
Max has got to go.
We should wrap up
We
here.
should get rolling.
All right. Well,
all right. Thanks for having me, guys. I had fun.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, Max, and thank you all for joining us either live or after the fact. For those listening live, we will be jumping into the post-show hangout room for our Patreon supporters, channel members, and server boosters, all of those types of folks. Welcome to join us for the post-show hangout after the fact. But anyway, thank you so much to those of you who have listened. If you're listening after the fact, please do leave your comments down below, which you can do on YouTube. I don't think you might not be able to do that on the audio platforms, but you can find the link in the description to find the YouTube channel where you can subscribe and, catch the visual podcast. And also check out our other YouTube channel, the Triple S League, where you find game guides, reviews, and comedy content, and all kinds of other gaming-related content. Check out the Discord server and the Guilded server. Links to all the other important Triple S League stuff can be found in descriptions below, wherever you are listening. My name is Ash, on behalf of Obsidian, Moontag, and Max Darrett. Thank you all so much for listening. Catch Maximum News this weekend right here on this channel, and we will talk to you later.